As the world falls away and I can't find a reason, as the world turns to gray, it's killing me unwillingly, and I am just the same as you.
I've been thinking about doing this for a very, very long time, but at the same time, I wish I would never gone to this point. Johnny Test. This show came out in 2005 and finally ended at the end of 2014. As of now, it became one of the most overhated cartoons in cartoon history. But in my opinion, it deserves to get overhated because of so many reasons. I was originally going to review some episodes and make a rant about Johnny Test, but I decided to do a top 5 worst episodes. Why? Because Johnny Test has several things wrong with it. It plagiarizes other cartoons, it's very horrendous, and it's not hilarious. Believe me, I can't even tolerate into even watching these episodes anymore. And the biggest reason onto why this show lasted for so long is because it manipulates me and my subscribers. In Baseball Sam's review of Blame Blame Bomb Boy, he watched the show because he was little, because he wasn't smart enough. And I was with them. We were not smart enough when we were younger when we watched the show. And then later on, when we understand how terrible it was, things change. The only thing that what this show does is to keep itself alive is that it manipulates everyone. But luckily, it came to an end, and it's not gonna come back anytime soon. And I hope there's no reboot. There better not be a reboot. But anyways, this video, I'm going to review 5 episodes that I consider the worst from Johnny Test. It can be worse, but at the same time, most of these episodes are pathetic. I'm Lonely Fanboy 48 here, and these are my top 5 worst Johnny Test episodes. Number 5. Johnny's got a brand new dad. Now, here's my opinions on Johnny Test's dad. Even when I rewatched this show so many times, I still found him the most irritating, the most obnoxious character. Even though that he's just doing whatever he can to protect Johnny, it's just... the fact that he says no to everything just really irritates me in this episode. The episode starts with, I'm not kidding, Johnny doing dangerous stuff, playing with his food, eating junk food, and then Dad just says, no, no, no. And then Johnny snaps and asks Susan and Mary Test to make a different kind of dad. I know what this episode is trying to do. It wants to show us that Johnny's dad is responsible with everything. He was the reason why Susan and Mary Test has the lab, but at the same time, it's just phoned in. Here's the thing. This show doesn't understand how to tell a story correctly. They completely squished in everything and making that the selfish and obnoxious parts, making it okay. Like, at the beginning, Johnny's dad says no, no, and then the only excuse for that is that Mary and Susan got the lab, and that's it. But at the same time, Johnny told them that if he ever said no to them, and it did happen. You know, stuff like that is just really pathetic writing and laziness, believe me. For the majority of this episode, the real dad was just trying to find his shoe. And then the other dad that Susan and Mary made, at first, Johnny is getting everything he wanted, but later on, it's starting to get more chaotic. Yeah, I know inventions cause malfunctioning things, but this happens a lot in the show. And the biggest reason onto why this is an issue is that it's also predictable. I mean, we all know that Johnny and the other characters are just upset that Dad is just saying no and no repeatedly. And even though it does add in a message that other things are more important, but at the same time, it's just phoned in. It really does, and it actually gets really redundant. This is the biggest reason onto why this is a terrible episode. It's really forced on how it's trying to tell its moral, but at the same time, it doesn't make up with everything in this episode. I mean, the robotic dad it's just too hyper, while the other dad is just firing a shoe. And then the ending where we get to see the other characters about to eat meatloaf, but again, they hate Dad's meatloaf, and Dad prefers it. You know what? At this point, these stories are just getting more confusing and more stupid every time I watch these episodes. Number 4, Johnny-Man. Now, if any of you are anime fans, when you think about this title, what do you think? Seriously, what do you do when you think about this title? Pokemon, yes. This is supposed to be a parody of Pokemon, but at the same time, it still plagiarizes. This is what this entire episode is. It takes elements from Pokemon, but plagiarizes them. I mean, here's the ideal. They took some of the Pokemon from Pokemon, and they changed Lugia into Skitterine, which is just basically, they just changed it into purple, and since they don't have a budget to make something anime stuff, they just make her like this. Yeah. And the biggest issue is that they get all trapped into the game because of course, Susan and Mary making a teleporting invention so Johnny can be part of Tinymon and stuff. Oh my god. Seriously, the slap thing that they keep doing over and over, even if it's the main thing, it just gets really redundant over time. Because here's the thing, if they don't beat their competitors, they won't be able to come back to the real world. Yes, it's that gimmick where somebody gets stuck into a dimension or a world or something and they can't get out of it in order to do something. That's basically what this episode is. You wanna know why I despise this episode? It's because they took so many elements from Pokemon and then they just tone it down into giant test material. For the jokes that they did, they took the give Steve-O from Dad's truck, and then at the end of the episode, when everything's all safe, Dad just gets a rage quit on them, and they say they were almost safe. They say almost at the exact same time that in these kinds of situations. I'm not kidding, and it gets really redundant. The sort of thing just gets really old over time, and believe me, it never made me laugh whatsoever. I mean, sure, it's kind of amusing when I first saw this when I was little, but at the same time, when I get older and when you do the same joke over and over again, it makes the joke really outdated. I would easily talk about the Timon in this, but at the same time, we just get one Timon who is probably one of the weakest of the league, and when it evolves, it becomes the strongest of the strong. I have no idea how you become a weak person and then become a strong person after that. But then again, this is just like Pokemon, but done wrong. It's like they don't even know how Pokemon works, and they just had to make up ideas by having the weak Timon, and then when it evolves and becomes a superior Timon. It just doesn't work like that. I mean, if the Timon that Johnny had was like in level 1, it should have done training a lot. Sure, it would take up time, but that's the point of an RPG. Level up your character. That's the whole point. Seriously, the fact that they have this battle with a small Timon against a big Timon. If Johnny Test played this game so many times, he should at least know to level up all his Timon into better levels. Seriously, this is just plot convenience for the main characters when the Timon evolved. Overall, I really hate this episode. And the fact that they made a sequel episode to this just makes me sick. It really does. Number 3. Johnny Titus. In this episode, Johnny gets a test in school, and he didn't study whatsoever. Now, here's the idea that I have for this, and it could have made this episode safe, in my opinion. Johnny could at least ask her girls to make him smarter. Like, have him drink a potion and have him smart for one day during the test. But instead, by the title of this episode, Johnny is just trying to get sick so he doesn't have to do the test. No, that doesn't work at all. It just doesn't. It isn't going to make you skip the test. It's just going to be the come around segment. What do I mean about the what goes around comes around thing? Is because just because you missed a test for one day, that doesn't mean you're going to move on with your grade. I mean, you're going to have to take a test either next week or sometime after that. You can't just skip it completely. Believe me, it happens to me a lot. When I miss school days when I'm sick, even when I come back, I still do the test and homework assignments. Just because you skip something, that doesn't mean you can just never do it at all. It just makes it completely stupid. And the biggest problem with that is, this has to be one of the most dumbest ideas that Johnny has ever come with. Like I said, you drink some medicine so you can become smarter. I know it's cheating, but believe me, skipping is something that just doesn't work in this kind of universe. I mean, sure, cheating is bad, but at least you did the test and you don't have to worry about it later on. How is being said going to resolve his issues? Seriously, Johnny, you're smart. You should at least understand that skipping isn't the answer to everything. And add insult to injury to Johnny's situation, he's also a time bomb. If he gets bigger, he will explode. Yeah. I told you to drink something that makes you smarter. But no, being sick is supposed to be the answer to everything, even though it really isn't. Here's one of the biggest reasons on why this episode really ticks me off. When Johnny gets home, you know that everything is just going to be predictable. I mean, we get the barf joke, which is kind of stupid because of the addition of the corn stuff, which is just too stupid. I mean, like, one element out of it and not becoming barf is just, I just can't take that seriously. It's just pathetic. And when Johnny's just trying to get sick from the other characters, again, use a potion or anything. And then when the other characters take him to a facility that will make him feel better to get rid of the isotope out of his body, they try to stop him from Susan and Mary doing the right thing. See what this episode does? It's just filler. Like, the final minutes of this episode is nothing but filler for doctors and scientists just trying to take the medicine out of Johnny. You know, at this point, it really just proves to me on being sick without getting sick on your own is just probably the most stupidest things I've seen from the show. Because at the end of the episode, Johnny uses again. Yeah. See why this episode is pathetic? Because after this, Dookie just gives a lesson to never get sick and always study. A good moral, but this episode is just doing something wrong in order to get its moral across at the end of the episode. The morals are just thrown in. It's just thrown in, and they just have to make a terrible script and then throw in the moral. Yeah, that's what I really hate about these episodes.